The world of international trade is entering a turbulent new era, marked by uncertainty and escalating tensions between major powers. Markets and governments alike are once again on high alert, bracing for the ripple effects of a rapidly shifting landscape. Former President Donald Trump, having returned to the White House, has wasted no time in launching a fresh wave of economic pressure on America's rivals. This time, his focus is squarely on India, China, and Russia. Three nations at the heart of global commerce and geopolitics. In August 2025, Trump imposed sweeping new tariffs on a wide range of goods entering the U.S., sending shockwaves through global markets and sparking immediate reactions from trading partners. The driving issue behind these moves is the ongoing war in Ukraine and the complex web of global trade in Russian oil, which continues to fuel both economies and conflict. Trump's strategy is direct and forceful, leveraging America's vast economic power to pressure Moscow, making it increasingly costly and risky for other nations to do business with Russia. India, a key U.S. partner and a major importer of Russian oil, now faces some of the harshest measures, putting its own economic growth and diplomatic ties to the test. Meanwhile, China, already locked in a long-running trade rivalry with the U.S., finds itself under renewed threat, with its export-driven economy bracing for further disruption. At the center of it all is Russia, the main target of these economic tools, as the U.S. seeks to isolate Moscow and cut off vital revenue streams. The situation is complex and rapidly evolving, with new threats, countermeasures, and diplomatic maneuvers emerging on a near-daily basis. These decisions are already impacting everyday life, driving up prices, threatening jobs, and straining international relationships in ways that are felt far beyond government offices. Trump's America First philosophy is on full display, with policies designed to protect U.S. industries and workers, even if it means upending decades of global cooperation. Supporters hail these moves as long overdue accountability, believing they will restore American strength and independence on the world stage. But critics warn the strategy could backfire, risking economic pain at home and alienating key allies when global cooperation is needed most. As the world watches, the stakes have never been higher. Will this high-stakes gamble pay off for the U.S., or spark deeper global conflict and uncertainty for years to come? To understand the current crisis, we need to understand tariffs, a tax on imported goods. Tariffs make foreign products more expensive, protecting domestic industries. Trump uses tariffs as leverage, not just to protect American jobs, but to force countries to change behavior. The new tariffs target India and threaten China because of their continued purchases of Russian oil. Trump's logic buying Russian oil funds the war in Ukraine. High tariffs create a financial disincentive: trade freely with the U.S. or stop supporting Russia. Countries must now choose between cheap Russian energy and access to the massive American market. This aggressive use of tariffs marks a sharp break from traditional diplomacy-focused trade policy. Trump's team argues it's necessary for national security and economic prosperity. Whether it works or not, it's reshaping the global trade landscape. India is in the crosshairs of Trump's tariff policy. Tariffs on Indian exports have doubled to 50%, with a 25% hike imposed immediately. The White House dubs India the Maharaja of tariffs, punishing it for buying and reselling Russian oil. The impact was swift. U.S. companies canceled orders, especially in electronics, threatening billions in future business. India's government calls the tariffs unfair, but behind the scenes, it's pausing new Russian oil purchases and delaying U.S. weapons deals. Financial experts warn the tariffs could slow India's GDP growth and raise its fuel bill by billions. The government faces a tough choice: protect its economy and energy security, or risk a trade war with its top partner. The stakes are high for India's industries and workers. The outcome could reshape India's global economic role. China is watching India's fate closely, as President Trump threatens to raise tariffs if Beijing doesn't scale back its Russian oil imports. The message from Washington is clear: economic pressure is a tool, and no major player is immune. For China, the stakes are high, and every move is being scrutinized by global markets and political observers alike. As the world's largest buyer of Russian oil, China maintains that its trade is both lawful and essential for its energy security. Beijing argues that stable energy supplies are critical for its continued growth, and that its agreements with Moscow are above board, despite mounting international scrutiny. Both sides are digging in, unwilling to show weakness. The atmosphere is tense, with each country preparing for a possible escalation. The world is watching as the two economic giants maneuver for advantage, setting the stage for a major confrontation that could reshape global trade. A fragile 90-day US-China tariff truce is about to expire, raising the stakes for both governments and businesses. The countdown is on, and uncertainty is spreading through boardrooms and trading floors worldwide. If no deal is reached, both countries could reimpose heavy tariffs, reigniting a trade war that's already disrupted the global economy. The threat of new tariffs looms large, with the potential to send shockwaves through supply chains and financial markets. The US and China are deeply intertwined, with supply chains, investments, and millions of jobs at risk. From electronics to clothing, the impact would be felt in factories, ports, and stores around the world. A renewed conflict would hurt exporters, manufacturers, and consumers on both sides. Prices could rise, jobs could be lost, and uncertainty would ripple through every sector of the economy. The looming deadline puts immense pressure on negotiators, who must balance national interests with the need for compromise. Every hour counts as talks continue behind closed doors. The world's two largest economies are at a crossroads, and the decisions made now will shape the future for years to come. The outcome will ripple across the global economic system, affecting everything from commodity prices to international investment flows. The next move could define the future of international trade. The clock is ticking, and the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what happens next. At the center of this drama is Russia. Trump's tariffs on India and threats to China are designed to choke off the money funding Russia's war in Ukraine. The goal: apply enough economic pain to force Putin to end the conflict. Trump is clear, he's using economic tools to pressure Russia, and more direct sanctions could follow. This is a high-stakes bet that financial pressure can succeed where diplomacy and military aid have not. Trump also signals willingness to negotiate directly with Putin, even without Ukraine at the table. This dual approach, maximum pressure and open diplomacy, is classic Trump. The strategy forces countries to pick sides, redrawing global alliances. For India and China, balancing ties with both the West and Russia is becoming impossible. The fate of Ukraine may hinge as much on trade decisions as on the battlefield. Trump's tariffs are shaking the global economy far beyond India, China, and Russia. The US average tariff rate is at a century high, forcing countries to rethink their strategies. Switzerland faces a 39% tariff, disrupting its watch and gold industries. Brazil's acai and agricultural exports are crippled by 50% tariffs. Even allies like the EU, Canada, and Mexico are hit, with German cars facing a 27.5% tariff. The Trump administration is using tariffs broadly, targeting friends and foes alike. A major change: the end of the de minimis exemption, meaning all small overseas packages will soon face tariffs. This will hit e-commerce and consumers hard. The global trading system is now defined by uncertainty and conflict. Businesses and governments must navigate a new, unpredictable reality. The era of stable open trade is over. The tariffs aren't just hurting foreign countries, they're hitting American companies and workers too. While the intention was to protect US industries, the reality on the ground is far more complicated and painful for many. US firms pay the tariffs, not foreign governments, adding billions in new costs. These extra expenses ripple through the economy, squeezing profit margins and forcing tough decisions at every level of business. Major companies like Ford, GM, and Caterpillar report serious financial damage, with Ford alone expecting a $2 billion profit hit. These losses aren't just numbers, they translate into real-world consequences for workers and communities. Toyota has slashed its profit forecast, citing nearly $10 billion in potential losses. The uncertainty has made it harder for companies to plan for the future or invest in new projects. These costs lead to layoffs and less investment. Factories are slowing production and some are shutting down entirely, leaving workers without jobs and local economies struggling. The manufacturing sector has already lost 37,000 jobs since the tariffs began. For many families, this means lost income and growing uncertainty about the future. The policy meant to protect American jobs is, in some cases, destroying them. Workers are left wondering if their livelihoods will survive the next round of changes. Companies are scrambling to adapt. Apple is reshoring production to Kentucky to avoid tariffs. But moving operations is expensive and takes time, creating new challenges for both management and employees. This shift may create some US jobs, but it's costly and disruptive. Not every company can afford to make such a move, and the transition period is often rocky. Global supply chains are being reconfigured under pressure. Companies are searching for new suppliers and routes, adding complexity and risk to their operations. The uncertainty is forcing businesses to rethink everything. From hiring plans to investment strategies, nothing feels secure anymore. The pain is real, and the future is unclear. For many American workers and companies, the road ahead is filled with questions and anxiety. Trump's tariff strategy has ignited fierce debate in the US and a major court battle over presidential authority. Critics warn that if the courts strike down the tariffs, it could trigger economic chaos. Even Trump's allies like Nikki Haley question the logic of punishing partners like India while giving China a temporary reprieve. Critics say the approach alienates allies and risks US economic strength. Supporters argue only tough action can force change and protect national security. They see short-term pain as the price for long-term American prosperity. The world is watching. Will the US and China reach a deal before the deadline, or plunge back into trade war? Will India abandon Russian oil under pressure? Most importantly, will these tariffs force Russia to end the war in Ukraine? For now, the rules of global trade are being rewritten in real time.